To a lot of people, this landscape probably wouldn't be considered bear country, but believe me, it is. So my name's Jay Honeyman. I work as a human-wildlife conflict biologist with Alberta Environment Parks. I guess my main responsibility is to do large carnivore conflict mitigation. So that basically means I'm trying to prevent carnivores from getting into conflict with landowners. I've been doing this job for probably close to 30 years. And the main theme with all of the conflict that I've been dealing with over that time is food. Bears are just in this constant search for food. And with that comes conflict with people who don't secure food from bears. And that really is the gist of our problem. And if we could secure food from bears in and near developed areas, we wouldn't have conflict.
So the white one is Gwyneth Paltrow. The brown one are the Dixie Chicks. I lose track of their names. My kids could tell you. So the coop is just kind of a freestanding coop. It was built relatively small just to house a couple of backyard chickens. What started out as just a project for my children to learn about chickens and where their food comes from.
You know, this Cypress area is right by the Ghost River. We're right up against the public lands to the west. And there's just lots of bears that move through here. It's nothing new, really.
So a grizzly was living nearby at a neighbor's place and wandered over and had himself a meal of chickens. It was our loss and sadly eventually the loss of a life for a grizzly bear. We were naive in the first place to not have one, so that's when the fence went in. 5 years old?
Easily.
But yeah, we haven't had any loss of chickens or property damage since then.
You know, there's a recognition that this is large carnivore country, and there's no reason you can't have chickens. You just gotta do it the right way. Charlotte called last spring. She had an incident with a black bear. Didn't get into the beehives, but was hovering around them. Then we put the fence up last spring, and so far as I know, we haven't had any issues since the fence has gone up.
This fence equipment runs about $900. If you're going to invest in bees, it's worth it.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty classic, and the fact that he's digging up to the fence means that he got shocked, and he'd have kept digging if the shock didn't happen, and he'd have been in. We're kind of just west of Calgary, and there's these, 4 or 5 acre parcels of land with homes on them with lots of cover, and it's bear habitat.
Came back maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago at the most. And that's when he knocked over a hive. It was ratchet strapped and totally demolished the hive. Yeah.
The easiest thing to do is just secure the thing, and then bears will walk right through here. They'll see the beehives, they'll get zapped by the fence, and they'll carry on. So there's no property damage issues, there's no public safety concerns, and the bears get to just be bears. So it's really critical to get the wires tight so that it can get under the hair and create the zap. And the spacing has to be right as well. It needs to be fairly minimal spacing at the bottom so animals can't dig under, and then that spacing increases a bit as you move up the line with the wires.
Pretty simple, hey?
So this is the ground plate. So it needs to be, the whole thing needs to be grounded, and it's kind of the key to the whole game. If you have a poor ground, then you're not going to get enough juice through the system. So that's like 14,000. I think we say generally 6,000 to 8,000 is good for grizzly bears. So So you've got to manage the vegetation at the bottom of the fence for mowing it or weed whacking it, just so that the fence isn't touching vegetation on the bottom wires.
About 6 years ago, 7 years ago, we had a cougar who was predating on fairly newborn lambs, and it would pick off a lamb every day or two.
Alan is, he's surrounded by these species of carnivore. 3K from Kananaskis country, so there's carnivores moving through here all the time. Yeah, the fence was already up, and we just put insulators on the existing posts and just ran wire around the existing fence that was already here.
It's actually wired up so that it goes around the corral and then goes all along the chute leading to the barn so that the sheep can go into the barn at night. We've been lambing in the barn here for the last 2 weeks, but that will be over quite soon, so the sheep will be spending their nights in the corral, but those ewes with lambs have the option of coming into the barn, which they probably will do just on their own accord. Whether by good planning or good luck, we have not had any kills of any kind in the corral since we've had the electric wire installed.
Okay, we're just west of Millerville, and this is an alpaca ranch with about 200 head of alpacas. And the landowner contacted us while they were developing the property to talk about what they could do to mitigate for large carnivores. And we discussed the electric fence possibilities. Quite a large area, it's about 40 acres that we've got electrified here. And we talked to Jeff, and Jeff came in and got some ideas. The unique thing about this particular fence is that there's a lot of cougar issues around here. And cougars will jump electric fence pretty regularly, so we've designed this outrigger at the top to try to deal with potential cougar predation on the alpacas.
So we've added some hot wires, one low, one a little bit higher, one at the top, and then the outriggers. With the outrigger, it just ruins their depth of perception, and they're less likely to challenge it. And that was the idea, and so far so good.
And in addition to the fence, she's got a number of guard dogs, and they are in with the alpacas 24/7, and that is also going to be a benefit to her. So down here in the Waterton front, we've got a lot of grizzly bears. It's a little unique in that these are cattle producers who have very large ranch holdings, and they're also experiencing lots of conflict with grizzly bears and other carnivores. Well, we were just interested in coming here to talk to you guys because I know this has been in place for quite a while, and a lot of the people we've been talking to are kind of hobby farmers, and we haven't really talked to any producers. And we thought that you guys, knowing the history of this place and with grizzly bears, it would be interesting to hear your story on, why the fence went in the first place. That's the problem with cameras.
They tell the truth.
Yeah.
We first started out with corn.
Yeah.
And they loved that, crushed corn, and
The bears did.
Yeah, they just came back and back and back, but any kind of grain.
When we had the cameras up after, the second year,
Yep.
them bears would walk about 10 feet around here.
And I would say that now, given we've got even more fence out, there's probably a lot of bears that have history with fence.
Right.
In other words, they're getting educated.
Yep.
From those early days when that went in, what are we, 2021 now, so almost 10 years later, the biosphere has been responsible for doing dozens and dozens of those cost share programs all across the Waterton front. There's still more work to be done, but the biosphere has done a great job at trying to facilitate these kind of things getting put onto the landscape.
For sure. And they're still talking to people, landowners and producers of sheep and goats and cattle to help people pay for the cost of putting up fences.
A lot of bear activity this year, a lot of it. A lot of predation. I haven't heard of much problems with feed storage and stuff, but there's been a lot of predation. Yeah.
And what about here, right here?
They've been around, but with all our electricity and everything we've done, and the dogs, they move through pretty quick. We've had everything pretty much cleaned up since 2010.
Tony's calving pen is an excellent example of how effective electric fence can be. Prior to him putting the electric fence in, he was having losses annually. And since the fence went in, which was over 10 years ago, he hasn't had a single loss.
And here I've got a 5-wire fence. And we've got extra fence here just because of the silage bag, the silage run, just to keep the bears, because they really like to get into the silage in the fall. No two operations are the same. And if it doesn't work for your operation, you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that we've always done with doing these projects is we've got to do this project to fit the operator.
You know, Kevin is out in the backcountry. There's nothing around here for miles, but you can see this bear trail coming out of the meadow, heading right for the barn.
So this is what our friendly bear did to try to get to the pellets last time, a year ago.
Going through the wall.
Through the wall. He got in the other night and he got into some of our pellets. And so we took all the food out of the barn because he's eating underneath the floor. And then we set a little trap with him, so we put the bag over there to see if he was going to visit last night. And as we see, the bag was sitting here and we dragged it away, so we did have a visit from
So he was here last night again?
Yeah.
You know, usually if bears have gotten a food reward, they're quite driven and they know that the food is there. So usually when you put the fence up, you can expect the bear to come back. The bear is probably going to come back. Whether they get zapped or their spidey sense just says, oh, there's something wrong here. The bottom line is that they move on and they go somewhere else. We saw beehives, chicken coops, silage, horse feed, livestock feed, calving pens, alpaca ranches. All of these places we were able to put some fence up, and we haven't had a reoccurrence. Well, you know, by reducing conflict and removing these attractants so that bears aren't interested in coming onto people's properties, we're not having to euthanize bears, we're not having to relocate bears, we're not having property damage for the landowner, and we're not having public safety issues with bears hanging around properties. We don't have any of that. Again, by removing the food source, it's a win-win for everybody, and it's something that we should be doing more of.